Recording. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the session. Just going to share my slides. This one. Okay. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to the session. This is an hour and a half about recruiting Village Hall trustees and committee members. But of course, committee members are Village Hall trustees, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then just to mention on our agenda today, so just a short welcome and introduction from me to everybody. And then my colleague, so there are three of us from Support Staffordshire going to be talking to you today. The first person is Michelle Cliff, who's our rural officer for the whole of the Staffordshire Moorlands, except for, our rural officer for the whole of Staffordshire, except Staffordshire Moorlands, because that's my role. So I'm the rural officer for Staffordshire Moorlands. Michelle Cliff, who's going to speak next to you about what do we mean by trustee. And then we've got our guest speaker, Emma Chester from Flash Village Hall, who's going to talk about being a trustee herself. Then we're going to be joined by our colleague Emma Paxton from Support Staffordshire, who's going to talk about a volunteer brokerage service, and then we'll look at communication and engagement. So if I can ask Michelle then to start on her piece, if you can speak next, that'll be great. I'll stop sharing so we can all see each other.
Okay, so mine won't take very long, but I just wanted really just to add some context in terms of charity trustees and what that means. So often there's sort of a bit of confusion when it comes to, you know, people asking, well, I need more management committee, or I need more trustees. It's quite often just worth thinking about who are the trustees, and therefore who are you trying to recruit? Because with a village hall, often you've got two sets of trustees, and it all depends really on how your governing document is worded and the historic legacy of where the village hall came from and how it was granted in trust. So your best option is always really to just check your governing document, and whatever that is, it could be a trust deed, a constitution, a gift, that is your information there in how that charity is managed. So that will establish the charity, and it will give you the manner in how the charity should be managed and organised. So it applies to all village halls that are held on charitable trusts. The members of the governing body are known as the management committee, because that's just an easy term to use. So your management committee are those who are legally responsible for the management of the organisation. They are your day-to-day people. You sit there, you have your meetings, you decide, and you take shared responsibility for those decisions at that management committee. So a village hall has a typical trust deed, which gives out your objects. So your objects should be named in that governing document, which, with a bit of blurb saying the purpose of who it's for, the inhabitants of the parish, without distinction of sex, sexual orientation, age, disability, etc. The main part is your village hall is there for the purposes of recreation, leisure, social welfare, and sometimes it mentions education. So that is your core charity objects. So that very much the purpose of the village hall is to provide that suitable and effective accommodation for the activities for the community, as mentioned. So it's pretty much the same for all village halls, as I say. So it's the management committee's function to uphold and implement that charitable purpose. So your management committee are appointed through those terms of the governing document. And if you should be lucky to have an acre model document, because again, acre have been behind Village Hall since the conception back many, many years ago. So that if you've got a standard acre governing document, it should tell you who your management committee is. And that would generally be made up of people who are elected. So these are people who are put forward as elected from the community. It would also have names of representatives of local organisations. So these are organisations that historically may have been able to nominate a person onto the committee. And that you can still do that if you've got the right clause within your document to allow organisations to nominate somebody. And sometimes it will say you have powers to co-opt members as well. So that is generally an option there where you've got interest throughout the year, you bring people along and you co-opt them onto your committee until unless they're either representative or unless they're elected, you can co-opt them until it comes to the suitable time when they can be elected or represented. Okay, so the difficulty is then when we refer to management committee, that they don't think that there's trustees. We're the management committee, not trustees. Well, all I want to say is to just be clear that there is no other body. Your management committee are your trustees. So they are totally responsible for those decisions. You may also, depending on your governing document, have what we call holding or custodian trustees. So this is where often the confusion lies, because you will have another set of named trustees, and they could be your custodian trustees or your holding trustees. So that could be individuals who were named in the first instance to hold the title deed. So sometimes we'll come across a hall actually where those holding trustees have long passed, they've been amended, they've changed. Well, that process is a legal process. So that would mean going through a different way of just recruiting your trustees, which are your management committee. So all we want to be clear is today we are talking about the management committee trustees of the charity and not holding trustees. But if you have any confusion or if you need to be clear with that, we just recommend you come and talk to myself or Celia, and we will help you to make clarity from your governing document into what that means. Okay, so are there any questions from that?
No, it's great.
Okay, fab, thank you. So I'll hand over now, Celia, thank you.
Michelle, just on that, there was something I wanted to just pick up and mention. So I think it's good at this point to let everybody know that we are the Staffordshire representatives of ACRE, so ACRE advisors, and through ACRE we have access to all of their documentation, lots of really useful tools and things for you. And just sharing this, sorry if it's looking a bit big, but there's a very useful document called Your Village Hall Management Committee.
That's exactly what I was using.
So within this, you can see, there's the introduction, and then it talks clearly about trustees and roles and responsibilities and things like that. So I think there's a key point for me that often maybe you're new to a role, or maybe you've been in a role for a long time, and you kind of want to get up to speed with lots of detail, and maybe you don't know where to start looking. If you come to us, we can give you these documents. If you go to ACRE Direct, there's often a charge. So if you come through us, there's no charge. But also we've got an idea of what's in there. There is an order form, so we can share that with you that will tell you what documents are there. But we often know what the right documents are to give you for a certain subject or a topic. So just specifically on this piece, there is obviously this form about the management committee and trustees and things, but there's lots of other really helpful and useful information and guidance that is available. So don't ever hesitate to ask if you've got a certain issue that comes up and you just think, I don't know where to go. Come to either Michelle or I, and we'll give you the right information, etc. So I just think there's loads of great content there, and sometimes people forget they might have received it a long time ago. They might need an updated version, or they might just not remember having it. So yeah, just ask, please. Okay.
Thanks for the clarity.
Obviously, all quite interested.
Sorry?
We're all quite interested in that subject area. Can you send that document through to those that are on the Zoom call?
Absolutely, yeah. We'll share it after. We'll share the presentation slides for everything, and we'll also send you any documents we mention.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
So I'm just making a note. Was there anything else worth mentioning on that, Michelle, particularly about any of the ACRE documents? I don't think so. Maybe that's it. Yeah.
No, I think the other thing to bear in mind is obviously when we start working with village halls, we often look at the Charity Commission registration as well, because it's just just a quick verification check to make sure that those, as I mentioned, those charity trustees are the ones named on the Charity Commission, because that is your management committee. So that should match who your elected and nominated committee are. So again, it's one of these things. We have conversations with village halls who say, well, the bowls club come along to the committee meeting, but they're not a trustee. I'm like, well, unfortunately, they probably are if they put themselves forward and they're coming to meetings. So yeah, we would just like to help you to help your organisations who are sending people along as representatives, that they do have a responsibility. They're not there wearing their hat for their bowling club when they're in their committee meeting. They are there to represent the village hall, but there is a conflict of interest that has to be declared, that they are, making decisions that could impact them as a bowling club member, for instance. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning then that if you secure new trustees, or even if you just want to refresh the trustees that are there already, it's worth sharing with them that document for them to read as well. I think, what we find often is trustees don't go through an induction process, and that's one of the things that we strongly advocate for. It's critical that whoever is a trustee understands their role, understands the details of the hall and what goes on, and how to make decisions. So, and it's not to frighten them or worry them, but I just think if we're all better informed in a role that we have, we can do a better job and feel more confident and capable, I think, rather than sometimes feeling a bit overwhelmed and not knowing where to go. And again, it's the sort of thing, we do inductions and training sessions that trustees can attend. So there's lots of information we can provide and help.
Well, there's a fantastic induction anyway in that document you've mentioned. There's an induction appendix, so that just helps. And if you're thinking about succession planning anyway, it's a really useful document to start, and it should hopefully last for many, many years. It's not something that will change that often in terms of the rules and information, but yeah, it gives you a good start to really start recruiting more trustees anyway, and get them that information from the offset, really.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Can I hand over to Emma now, please?
Yeah. So just bear with me whilst I...
Do I need to let you?
Should work, because that's...
Okay, yeah, you're there. Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, so just to start, we are officially called Thornford Memorial Hall, but everybody really knows us as Flash Village Hall, so sometimes there's a bit of confusion, but they are one and the same. And we are the highest village hall in Britain, which is an accolade. So just a little bit about who I am. So my name is Emma Chester. I'm 33 years young, which makes me relatively new to being a trustee and being a volunteer and getting involved in these sort of responsibilities. I originate from Waterhouses, so I'm Staffordshire Moorlands born and bred, but moved to Manchester in 2008, and then relocated back to the Staffordshire Moorlands into Flash Village in 2016. It was from there that I then began to volunteer as a committee member with our village hall in around November 2021. I was elected the secretary of the village hall in May 2022 and as a trustee in May 23. So just a little bit about how I became aware of volunteering as a trustee and supporting the village hall and our local community. So it's not an extraordinary story, it's pretty normal. But as the secretary for the village hall, part of my role included attending the regular committee meetings and, of course, annual AGM. It was at the AGM in 2023 where one of our longest standing trustees wanted to step down from that role. And it was written into our guiding principles, which is our sort of governing document, that there has to be a minimum of 4 trustees for Flash Village Hall. And so one resignation meant that we were short at this time. Having been made aware that this particular person wanted to resign, I did put my name forward to be considered as a trustee for the village hall, mainly because I saw, and I still do see, that being a trustee is an opportunity for me to support the community that I live in, and it acts as a great motivation to continue this work of like-minded individuals of the past. And since being elected as well, I've had to undertake bits of training. One of them is the Right Start Trustee Roles and Responsibility Training, which is really good if you're interested in learning a bit more about various roles and responsibilities. It's a good one to get involved in. So my motivation really to volunteer is I suppose you could call it a catalytic event. If you want to grandiose it that much. But as I mentioned earlier, I moved to Flash in 2016 and I didn't really get too involved with community events until 2021, where I went to our annual Flash Duck Race. It was at this event that I looked around and I realised I didn't actually know many of the people who were stood in that field with me. And I didn't like it. I sort of felt a bit like a stranger in my own community. Whereas growing up in Waterhouses, I have great memories of attending a lot of different community events, with it being another small village. I remember as I got older that these events started to dwindle and we lost events such as the community fair, brownies club stopped, jiu-jitsu classes stopped, the line dancing stopped, all these sort of events that bonded the community together all started to vanish. And at a young age, I didn't really understand why or make that direct connection between the reduced number of volunteers and the declining number in community events. It's clear now to me that the charitable sector can't really work without people coming forward to volunteer skills and experiences, and that this sort of volunteering does have a direct influence on the longevity of any cause that you're passionate about. The big motivation for me is obviously my daughter. This is me here with my daughter and some of the other children in the community. And I really want her to grow up having those positive memories and positive experiences that I had growing up in the community with all these events, but then hopefully without the sadness that I felt when they started to stop. And without volunteering and without promoting and having other volunteers come on board, that might not be a thing for the next generation. It is a use it or lose it sort of situation that we're in. So I was asked to talk about the sort of things that I find challenging about volunteering, particularly about the role that I play. And I thought the best way for me to do this was by putting together a bit of a case study. So this is one of the latest events that we're trying to run. We've coined it Cine on the Hill. It can be flicks on the sticks. It's that sort of bringing local cinema to our community. A major area that I struggle with is getting other people as enthusiastic about ideas as I am. So when I get my mind fixed on something, sometimes I can get a bit run away with it, and I get a little bit frustrated if other people aren't quite as passionate as I am. But I do need reining in every now and then. But local cinema is something that I really want to bring to the community. Primarily, it costs a lot for us to go. Personally, I have to find childcare if I want a night out. We have to travel everywhere. But other volunteers were not so keen on this idea. It comes with an element of risk, especially a financial one. There are quite a few overheads to this. And to get over this sort of challenge, of get around it, we need to be creative, we have to be patient. But social media is a great friend of mine. And we often run a lot of community polls online. We do creative advertising like this that you can see here. It's a bit of fun. It just compares our cinema to like a multiplex pricing and what's on offer. And it gets the community engaged. It generates a bit of a buzz online. And when people start to see that people are involved, people are engaged, and they're getting excited, people are starting to talk about what films they'd like to see come into the village hall, and what they want to go and do, what sort of food we want, then that sort of positivity begins to flow through everybody else, and it can generate quite a lot of excitement, and it then starts to outweigh the concern that people had originally. So it's just taking those issues, those challenges, and trying to flip them to be something positive, and that's something that we have to do quite a lot, unfortunately. But yeah, so what I enjoy and I find rewarding about the role, it's this. These are just some snapshots of events that we've held in the past few months at the village hall. Some of them are recurring events, so we hold regular Zumba classes, we hold a monthly kids group, we have coffee mornings, music nights, obviously discos, history talks, all things comedians come visit. And it is really rewarding. It's about that making memories, sort of linking back to what I mentioned earlier about those memories I had as a child growing up in a very strong community. And it's seeing what could have been an easily redundant space full of that activity, full of that buzz, and enabling the local community to make these memories. It does give me a sense of pride, running these events, seeing how vibrant they can be, does give me that sort of pride in the community to see what we can achieve when everybody comes together. That's really nice. And we get, the results. It's not every activity that we do generates the same results. They're not always that popular, but hearing back from the community about the joy that they do get out of a lot of the events that we run is really great to see. And we also get to work with other community groups in the area. So we've had engagements with the first responders, with the church and local businesses that come to our markets. And that again is just tightening that bond that we have as a community across all the different villages in the area as well. That is something that I do really enjoy. So it's on to the big question really. So I was asked to sort of share or discuss my advice on how we can attract and recruit and retain volunteers and trustees. I'm not going to lie, I did find this hard to write about, and it is hard. I'm sure we all face these sorts of difficulties. There is a lot of responsibilities that come with volunteering, and especially being a trustee, this sort of means you have to give up a lot of your own personal time to a cause to enable it to succeed. But attracting volunteers, as I mentioned earlier, it's being creative, I think. Never underestimate the power of social media. We can utilize Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok if you're brave. It's getting yourselves out there, getting people aware of who you are in a creative way so that you stand out. Recruiting, it's sharing the load is a big one. You can't really be made to feel that somebody is doing more than everybody else. It's a very time-consuming thing to do, and if people feel that they're giving more than others, this can sometimes create friction. Recently, we've sort of been considering engaging with local schools and talking to people who are doing college or university applications and seeing if they would like the experience in event management, something like that, and asking them would they like to volunteer to run an event at the hall. And it's just co-opting them in that way to try and recruit and get a different type of demographic of people involved in the community projects. And then retaining volunteers. So again, I found this quite difficult to sort of pinpoint to a couple of things, but I guess it all boils down to it having to mean something for me. It's quite personal, and a volunteer needs to find meaning in what they're volunteering for. If there isn't one, then I don't think somebody's going to continue to give up their time for free doing something that they don't care about. And it's how we make people care about what they're doing. And I find that offering a continued variety of opportunities and events that people can pick and choose from, they can get out of it what they want and get involved in different ways. It can attract a good cross-section of the community and volunteers. And then I just wanted to close really looking at this quote at the bottom that I've put, that volunteers don't get paid, not because they're worthless, but because they're priceless. And this is a quote that we've probably all seen and heard before, and I do see it quite a lot. And yes, volunteering is offering up your time for free, and yes, we don't get paid for it, but not in a monetary sense, at least. However, I do feel personally that I'm rewarded for giving up my time in a different way, because every time that my daughter attends the local duck race, that she can come to a kids group, a music night, a disco, it's allowing her to make friends and build her place in the community. And I'm hoping that by seeing the successes of volunteering, it's passing that inspiration on to the next generation, who hopefully will then continue this into the future, because without volunteers, she wouldn't have any of that. And it's just a real shame if I couldn't give her that. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Does anybody have any questions or want to ask Emma anything particularly?
Just a bit of a slightly off the wall one, but what sort of population have you got up at Flash?
It's not very. I think the parish, well, the Cornford parish is about 460 people roughly. Flash itself, I think there's 12 properties. It's very small. So when we have events, and sometimes we say, oh, we've got maybe 30, 40 people turn up, you think, oh, gosh, there's only 40 people, but then people have to say to me, that's 10% of our local area population. And when you think of it that way, like we're reaching 10% of the people, that it's just putting it into that perspective. But yeah, it's a small area, so it is hard, because you're asking a lot of a small group of people to keep coming back and keep committing that time. And people have a lot of other things to do. We've all got work, we've got families, we've got activities that we'd much rather be doing sometimes than doing a community thing. But
you've got a tough job, and you're doing a great job.
It's not easy, but it's great, and it is something I've like I said, I've only recently joined the committee. I'm still not really a local in Flash. But from the few years that I've been getting involved, you can see that, and it's not just me. I don't want to imply that it's just me, but I've sort of seen an increase in involvement, because we're starting to really push for variety and putting our name out there and just being a little bit different, trying to access people through different means, not just word of mouth, and that has pulled a lot more people in. And then people say, oh yeah, we had a really nice time at Village Hall last week, next time they do something, I'm going to go. And it's just that sort of, it's just rolls on from there, really.
Yeah. I'd like to say, so I met Emma quite early on when she became a trustee, because she came to one of our locality forums with a colleague, actually, who was also quite new to the trustee role. And I was completely impressed and stunned by their enthusiasm and interest from the start, but also how proactive they are as a committee, and Emma in her role, the amount of things that they've made happen, the work that they've put in, what they've achieved, how the involvement of the community has grown, how that community hub is so essential for all ages, everybody. I just think it's a great example of how committed volunteers and enthusiastic and proactive volunteers, as I'm sure all of you are, but it is that sometimes if you've been doing it a long time, it's hard to sort of remotivate yourself. So I think sometimes just hearing from somebody else reminds you of how it feels, and when when you first get involved, and how much you want to do, and when your family's young. Because I think, am I right, Emma, in thinking that your parents were also village hall trustees?
Yeah, my dad was the chair of the parish council, and
yeah,
my mum did community support work growing up. So I was almost dragged along to community events as a kid, and you don't realise that when you're younger how important that sense of community. You know, people know you're such and such's daughter. You've got that place in the community. And moving to Manchester, which is vastly different to rural life, and nobody knows you, and you do feel very lost. And so moving back to Flash, I still felt that sort of, nobody knows me, I'm a stranger here. And it didn't sit easy at all, and I just had to get back involved. So
brilliant. And I think one of the points you made as well, that depending on the generation we're from, we're and our own interests and knowledge, we can be more or less engaged and familiar with social media and other new platforms of communication. And I think embracing that and seeing the value of it. I mean, I see it through other areas, more, not so much just the sort of communicating what's going on at the hall, but just taking care of each other, and knowing if somebody's dog's lost, telling each other where it is, or like Emma says, the rest of the community knowing who her daughter is, so that you look out for each other. I mean, we all know these are all the wonderful things about volunteering and look, being a trustee for a village hall. But sometimes when you're looking to recruit, retain and attract, it's reminding people and sharing the stories like Emma has kindly shared with us today, is what's good about it, how does it make you feel? And we always hear how hard it is to attract new volunteers, but I just think the more we can share stories and remind them what's good about it, or if they don't know what's good about it, is let them know. It's critical. So thank you really for that insight, Emma. It's fantastic. And I know that you also volunteer in lots of other ways, as do all volunteers. So it's just brilliant. And you're absolutely right. This country would not thrive and survive the way it does without volunteers. But on that note, I'd like to...
Can I just step in with that?
By all means, Paul, please do. Yeah.
I just have a specific question around social media. And I wondered what sort of returns you get from social media, sort of outside Facebook. We, as a whole, we're starting to get more active on Facebook, but I don't know. I'm not on TikTok myself, but I'm pretty active on most of the rest of social media. I'm just wondering where you get your return on time investment, if you like.
It's a hard one to sort of quantify, really, because you have to give a lot of time to those platforms, because someone's got to be on Instagram. You've got to link it to your Facebook. We have a community WhatsApp group. It's marrying everything up on every platform as well, so that people on certain things aren't left out or don't get all of the communications. It's just something it comes really from a love of wanting to do it. There isn't anything else.
I think, am I right in saying, Emma, that you've got Ian, who's a bit of a passionate social media and a bit of a techie, so he loves it, and it's about finding people who want to use their skills and the things they enjoy for the benefit of the community sometimes, isn't it? So
I mean, that's me.
Yeah, great.
I'm driving that forward
at
the moment, but
it's just a time-consuming thing. But we have noticed it is a positive return, because not everybody's on Facebook, not everybody wants to go on social media, and putting a post, a notice in your notice board isn't again going to hit as many people as you perhaps wanting. So it's just accessing these other platforms and trying to target as many people. And we still get people saying, "Oh, you had that event, I had no idea that was on," and you think it was on every platform we could possibly think of. Posters littered, and a post-it dropped to everybody's house in the area. How could you not know this was on? But we still aren't going to reach everybody, and that's really hard. But it's worth it. It really has. We've really noticed an increase in response. So.
Thank you.
Any chance of, can I just pop in there and just say
Yeah,
a few
sure.
words?
Please do, Phil. Yeah.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, I don't think everybody probably caught it, but I'm going to have to zip away shortly because we're interviewing a young man. And this has been done through Support Staffordshire. And he's coming from the university and he's doing a master's in digital marketing. And we're hoping that he will come along this afternoon and we're going to have a chat with him and have a look at the whole holistic sort of marketing of our village hall. So, we've got the web page, we've got Facebook, all these things we've just talked about really, and maybe how we can pull those all together and take that forward for us and make it much easier, which would include the booking as well, because we've got a few issues with that at the moment. So what I'll do is, if hopefully we can get this young man on board this afternoon and he takes our project on, then maybe later in the year we can share some of that, and maybe some people can maybe get some of that as well.
That'd be great, Phil. Thank you for offering to do that. It'd be really helpful, I'm sure.
You might want to just mention that when we come to your village hall for the next village hall network meeting in March, and we'll just give us a plug there.
Yeah.
12th of March. Great Bridgeford, your village hall, so we can see it, we can see you, and hopefully you can just give us a quick insight of how this might be going or what the plans are. So
yeah, we're really hopeful, because I mean, I look at Emma and she's really young, and it's great to see somebody so young involved in it. Most people I'm sure you deal with are probably my age and getting on a bit, and of course what comes with that young age is enthusiasm and everything else. It kind of it gets a bit harder as people get older to put that enthusiasm in. So what we're hoping for is this young man's going to come in and inject that for us, inject some ideas, and maybe give us a bit of a steer.
Absolutely,
and take us forward to the future, really, because most of us old people are not really good at Facebook and Twitter and all these kind of things. But hopefully you'll simplify that for us, make it easier, and that'll be something we can share then across the board with everybody else.
That is something that's difficult because of that. We've sort of, everybody's got that sort of generational gap as such, but once you got, once if he comes in and can sort of spark that for you, and you can see it is really easy to use once you get your head around it as well. And if everything links, you can link all of your social medias together. You only have to post on 1 or 2 platforms, and it just expels everything, and then that reduces your time, and the return you'll get will be really good.
Great.
Just to mention as well then, because we were with our training colleagues from Support Staffordshire yesterday, and they are working on developing a training session which will be the sort of very basics of social media. So if you've got trustees and people interested already, that course will be available in the near future. And I think sometimes you just need the sort of simple idiot's guide to which buttons you press and what does that mean to get going, and people of any age can find they actually enjoy it once they understand how to use it and how to do it. So we'll certainly let you know about that when it's available. But can I just now say welcome and introduce Emma to everybody, please? She's our next speaker. So Emma, do you want to introduce yourself, and do you want to do your own screen share, or shall I pull it up for you?
Hello, I don't mind. Whichever's easier, Celia.
It's up to you.
I can do my own. I'm saying, looking at the array of buttons in front of me. Hello, I'm Emma. I'm the Senior Volunteering Officer at Support Staffordshire. I cover our volunteering brokerage service that we offer, and I'm here to tell you a bit about that. Let me just see. I'm so used to Teams, I can't see how to do it.
So if you go along the bottom, you'll see the screen share.
Yes, in bright green.
Yeah.
Perfect. There we go. Hopefully everyone can see that there should be a presentation about to be happening.
Yeah. Do you want to make it full screen?
There we go. Has everybody got that?
Yes.
Well, so here at Support Staffordshire, we have a team of volunteers, officers across the county, and we can help you to list the roles that you have available that require filling with volunteers, whether that's trustee roles or any other roles. So here's a little bit of a run through of what we can do for you. It's all free as well as part of your membership of Support Staffordshire. So really, I don't want to tread on what Emma I saw was doing at the end of her presentation, but what is a volunteer? It's a person who freely offers to take part in an enterprise or undertake a task, and a person who works for an organisation without being paid. And in most places, they are gold dust. They're that kind of person that once you've got them, you want to hang on to them as best you can, because they're so few and far between, aren't they? And a quick slide on volunteering. It's always the volunteer's choice to volunteer. It should be. Some people I know are strong-armed into things, but volunteer roles are not the same as employee roles. They're very different. An employee has specific rights and is entitled to payment. Volunteer is strictly just a volunteer with no monetary gain. And it's a great way for them to gain some work experience. But contrary to that, volunteers are not a replacement for paid staff. And work experience is not always volunteering. You have to look at the letter of definitions between the two for those. And volunteers cannot volunteer for a profit-making company. They can volunteer for a company, which Celia can correct me on this if I needed. They can volunteer for an organisation which is making money but is putting that money back into the community or into itself. So again, you'd have to check with your locality officer if you're a little bit worried, but for village halls, I'm quite certain you're fine. So why do people volunteer? As Emma was saying, some people want to help. It's out of a sense of satisfaction, or it could be an excuse to get out of the house if they've been stuck in it for too long. They could be passionate about it. They want to learn new skills. They've got time on their hands. Sometimes that sense of loyalty to your village, to your location, to having been there before. And Emma, you mentioned did you say your grandfather was trustee as well?
My father, yeah.
Your father. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. If you look at the surnames on the screen. And my grandfather was a parish councillor. So you do have that sense of loyalty sometimes as well. But also people need things on their CV. They need a little bit of experience or something to show that they've managed to find something that's great for their skill set. And it's great to share skills as well. And there's loads of other reasons that we could touch on, but we could be here for quite a time. So how do we find volunteers? They're not always under the bed. So generally, most people try word of mouth, posters, flyers, open days, websites, social media. If you want something doing, ask a busy person is the usual adage. Some people go with the straight panic option, but Support Staffordshire are here to help. So as I mentioned, we've got a volunteering officer, which works with the locality officers in each area of Staffordshire. We have Mitchell, who covers Lichfield and Tamworth area. I myself cover Stafford, South Staffs and Cannock Chase area. We've got Lucy, who covers Newcastle, Verity, who works with Celia up in the Moorlands. And we have Rosanna, who's just started, who is covering Burton-upon-Trent area of East Staffordshire. So we have a nice covering of everyone to be able to help you wherever you are located.
Just on that, who covers East Staffordshire?
East Staffordshire is a little bit hazy. It's me at the moment because Rosanna covers Burton area only. But we have just recruited a volunteer who will be able to help us in East Staffordshire. So you're not forgotten, but come to me if you need anything. So we can provide you with support and create comprehensive role descriptions for your vacancies. You need to break them down into what you need doing, where, when, and how often. Always think about if the role can be split and what support will be available. A lot of the time, organisations will have stalwart members who have decided it's time to retire, or they've sadly passed on, and they have done so many things that when it comes to looking at the team, you need to recruit somebody to replace Bob. The fact that Bob did 6 different jobs isn't always seen. People see that they need to replace Bob, and that's quite a daunting prospect. But if you break down what they did into smaller roles, you've got nice bite-sized roles. to then be able to entice people in, because they don't always want to have a huge responsibility straight off. It might be that once they've joined the team and from just doing a little helping job, that they then want to take on more responsibility and they become as effective, if not more, than Bob. But to start off with what they did as quite a broad description is sometimes far too scary a prospect for someone to take up. But always make sure it's clear, it's concise, it's manageable, and it's an appealing advert. So you can register your vacancies on our online volunteering platform, which is run by Simply Connect. I put the link there, but we can forward that on to you as well. It's on our website and you can access it quite easily. I'll show you how to in a moment. But all those roles, once they're on there, all of the volunteers that want to volunteer and register with us, they can see those roles and they can search through. So like I said, keep it concise and appealing, an attractive role, and people can view it at their own leisure. We also phone all those volunteers every week and make sure that they're finding the right direction to go in, and we can signpost them to specific roles if we know that they're really urgent. And we also post things on our website, and we have a monthly volunteering newsletter that we send out to everyone interested in volunteering that we're aware of. So what's the next one? When you go onto our website, that is the screen that you will see. Let me just see if I can share this. So can you all see, do you support Staffordshire, and a whole load of people's bottoms?
Yeah.
Picture to have chosen, is it? So this is the Support Staffordshire website. As an organisation, if you click onto the Organisations tab, it will bring up the page for you. And if you scroll down, you can get to Volunteer Management. And that is where we can tells you there what we can do to support you, and how to list some roles, what we can do with managing those roles. And then you can register here for volunteering opportunities. And that brings up that screen, which you just saw. Oh, there we go. I was playing on it earlier. It's timed me out. There you go. So here you can very easily, if you're not already on this system, you can register with this blue button here. And that will ask you to fill out your details. So the name of the person going to log in and their email address, and create a password. And then if you click save, it'll then confirm a few items about your organisation, and then it'll ping through the system to myself to then authorise that you are actually part of our system and you can have access to the volunteering platform. And then once you have had that, you can log in. And this is for anybody. I can search anybody. So I'm going to show you the Support Staffordshire page. Where's it gone? When you log in, it will come up straight to your page. So here we go. It will always ask you to drop down and pick again your page, because some people are volunteers for more than one organisation. And if you're managing those roles for more than one organisation, you need to switch between the different ones. So here you'll have a page where you can change your profile if you need to. You can manage the roles that you have listed. So if I click on that, it will show you the current roles that you have. Just have to move everybody out of the way. There we go. So you can see here we have some roles available. And these have started being advertised, and the adverts will end on this day, and they're all live. Once you've filled a role, or if you decide a role is no longer needed, you can end a role and it goes here. So that if you do then think, actually, I shouldn't have done that, I would rather replace that role, you haven't got to type it all out again, it's saved for you here. And these are the roles that volunteers will see when they log in. And it's quite easy to fill out the form, and we're here to help if needed. If it gets a bit too bamboozling, just pick up the phone and ask one of us. But you can put a main role description, which is quite long. but it covers everything. And you also have a short description. This is what the volunteer sees first. So put something nice and punchy that's no more than 4 or 5 lines here, and that should hopefully get their attention. And then you can fill out when you want the advertising to start, when you want it to end, who they need to contact, whereabouts the role is in the Staffordshire area, and directions if needed. And then this is the bit that lots of people forget. So it could be a one-off event. So if you are having an open day and you need people to man the car park for you, then it's a one-off event. If you want trustees to come and join your team, then it's for individuals. If you have a project to redecorate the main hall or to tidy up the scrubland to the side, you could possibly tick for groups, because then a group of people may want to come and help with that as well. So you can try and narrow down or include as much as possible for that role. And you can also tick the skills required. So for the role that we have advertising, they need basic IT skills. Everything else is okay as long as they can email and work the internet. We're happy with that. Puts a basic skills description and a little bit about what's in it for you. So it could be a great way of making new friends. It could be a great way of focusing on administrative tasks. It's good for someone to bring up career skills. So try and sell your role as much as possible so that you get as much interest as you can, and be honest with your time commitment. I adore girl guiding, but I don't want to say anything too bad. But a while ago, we did have a campaign about it's just half an hour every week, which it's not. But you need to be honest, otherwise you will quickly lose people. And then think about the age range. So for trustee roles, they'll have to be 18 and over, I believe. But if you've got any other roles like gardening or tidying or anything, it could be done by somebody under 18, as long as you have the relevant insurances and provisions in place. And again, we can chat to you about those. And then the activities that would be required. It's all there for you. You just have to tick. And these tick boxes are the same tick boxes that the volunteers tick. So the system tries its best. So if you tick a couple of these which match another one that a volunteer has clicked, the system will recommend that volunteer ticked the same things that you need. Why don't you contact that person? Because sometimes, as great as it is for a volunteer to come forward, sometimes flattery is the best way of getting hold of somebody. And you approaching them and saying, with the skills that you've got, I think you'd be really brilliant at helping us in this role. Would you consider it? And that approach sometimes gets a much better response than waiting for someone to take the bait. So that's how you list the role.
Can I just say, Emma, before you skip down, just go back where the roles were, because just to highlight the one where it said trustees, that.
Oh, was there a trustees one?
Yeah.
Did I completely miss that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sure it was. Down there.
Trusteeship and committees.
So yeah, don't look at that list and think, oh gosh, you've got to fill it in somewhere there. But trustees and committees, that is absolutely what you would be looking for if it's trustees, I would say. Is that right?
Yes, tick that. So people know what they're signing up for.
Okay. But if they needed something like social media, maybe IT, technology and websites. So if you're looking for a specific volunteer to come onto the committee to help you with your IT, technology and websites, that might be also ticked if somebody's got those skills they want to offer. I'm presuming that might. So yeah, I suppose it's just looking through the list and seeing which one it's most relevant to in the role you're advertising.
Yes.
Yeah.
It would be if you're looking for a one-size-fits-all volunteer, I would split that into a few adverts. So if you ticked everything here that you wanted a particular volunteer to do, if you wanted them to do gardening, first aid, trusteeship, building and construction, there will be no volunteer in the system that will have ticked those same ones. But if you do one advert that says we need a volunteer, same role description, but building and construction ticked, put that advert on again, same description, but trustees ticked, you've got the best of both worlds then, and you can get more volunteers looking at it. There's a way of fiddling the system. And then, just go through Be honest here with what you'd be able to provide with them. We'd want them to have a little bit of induction and training. Volunteer policy is always brilliant. You don't have to have travel expenses. It's great if you can. You don't have to have food expenses and things, but just tick through, see what you can provide and be honest with those. There's a couple of boxes that are obsolete, so the COVID safe environment is obsolete now. And then that will come through. Once you've clicked save, it will come through and we'll just verify that and it'll get added to the system for volunteers to look at. And then when you have listed it, you can then have a look at the volunteers who apply for it. This lady here, I can show you, Kaylee Bai. She has applied for that role I was just showing you about the Burton advisor, and I'm dealing with her now. So it's a nice little way of keeping a record of what you're doing with the person. Sometimes you can contact them and they've changed their mind, and that's fine. You can then delete them from this system, but it's a nice record keeping system for you. These ones where they're matched to your roles, this is where the system has looked at which boxes you've ticked and which boxes they've ticked, and it's married the two together. So there's lots of people here that you could possibly contact for your role. It isn't great on geography, I will say that now. Sometimes it will send somebody from Newcastle as a suggestion to somebody in Tamworth, which isn't really the best geographical distance to travel for a volunteering role. But you can have a look through those when the system suggests them. And also everybody that you then, if you start a role with you, you can keep a record of them here. You can remove them from it if you don't want to keep records here, but it's quite useful to have volunteers' records so you can see when they started the role, which advert it was that they applied for. And there is a great video just here, open the green button at the top, the guidance video. So I really recommend that you watch that. And it will have somebody who'll go through it step by step and show you how to get the best from this system. And as I said, it's completely free as part of your Support Staffordshire membership. Now, how do I go back to where I was before? There we go. There you go, apologies. So as I mentioned, those are the advertisings, and this is what the volunteers see when they look on as a volunteer. So the roles that are listed, that short description that I mentioned is what you see here. And then they can click and read more and have a look through. So we also have advice on volunteer management, and our locality officers, Celia and Michelle, will be able to help with this as well. And when you've got your amazing volunteer, who's hopefully come through the Support Staffordshire system, or maybe not, maybe the next door neighbour who didn't even know they lived next door to a village. When you come through, make sure you support and retain that volunteer. They're the key. All the volunteers, as you know, are key to everyone's organisations. Support them, value them, listen, invest and integrate them into the team. You don't want that one person at the bottom of the pile to become wobbly and then disappear, because then everything else comes crashing down. And never underestimate the power of a simple thank you. Everybody, yourselves included, give up so much time to get things done out of the goodness of your hearts. And we do it because we love it. But somebody saying thank you, or do you know what, you did a cracking job there, and you know they may not have mentioned it, but I noticed it, thank you. That really makes somebody's day. And some people have left roles in volunteering because they felt that they were not valued, they were underappreciated, and nobody knew what they were doing. So just by saying thank you, it's the smallest word just to retain people. And share the good news. As you were saying earlier about social media, other people out there will want to know what you've done and how you've done it. So it's not just blowing your own trumpet, but by all means, blow your own trumpets. You've worked really hard to retain and gain a volunteer. But show the people how you did it, and they'll be in touch with you and go, oh, that's great how you did that. Could you help us do this, this, and this? And to spread the word and to spread the love of volunteering is amazing. and you'll have other people coming back to you to say, oh, have you tried doing it this way? And then never underestimate the hidden value of volunteering. So I've got a little true or false game for you. Volunteers are giving their time for free at no cost to you. Do you think that's true or false? Everyone's gone quiet. It is false. They are giving their time for free, but it will cost you. A volunteer cannot have any remuneration, but you've got to train them up. They've got to know what to do. You might have to send them on a couple of training courses. Hopefully they're free, but if not, then there's those costs to pay.
So you've got to invest in them.
Yeah, you're investing your time and your energy. It's not always the financial cost, and your belief in that volunteer. And sometimes it's heartbreaking when you invest all that time and then they go, do you know what? I can't do Thursdays anymore, and you never see them again. So make sure, there is a cost, and make sure you're aware of it and you're happy to give it. Also, there are travel expenses. If somebody, most volunteers are entitled to, if the organisation has the funds and is happy to, refund any travel expenses. So possibly not what they are volunteering for. If they are volunteering to be trustees and come to a meeting once a quarter or whatever, they would be expected to get there themselves. But if they had to go on a training course, their travel to get to that training course and back again outside what they would normally volunteer for should be something to be looked at and refunded. So there's that to take into account as well. And there's a hidden value to our wonderful volunteers. What do they bring to your team? I've put some things up here for you. They bring new skills, possibly. They bring fresh eyes to something. They bring an improved outreach. They're a different set of people to the people you've dealt with before, so they'll have different friends and networks that they can share what you do. A new advocacy. But equally, your organisation is bringing back to these volunteers some new skills, an improved outreach. They're meeting with different people, some fresh eyes that they hadn't thought of how to look at. You'll both benefit from each other in the same skills, hopefully. And then the hidden value of volunteering. It's my favourite thing. Don't fall into the trap of false accounting. Make sure that your organisation is completely aware of all the hours that volunteers donate. We all give so much time and energy to keep things going. Go and unblock a drain because it's easier than phoning somebody out, or I don't know, we can paint that, don't worry, so and so can do it at the weekend. But when that volunteer who does all those things leaves, it's suddenly when the next person then has to start paying, when your organisation starts paying for all of these jobs that a volunteer did without you realising, suddenly you've got a deficit of all of those roles that you weren't aware that were done for free. So make sure you know how many hours are done. Keep that in your budgeting. So if you approximate £12 per hour for every volunteering hour that you have happening with your organisation, you can then work out that should those volunteers stop, you can still meet the critical service requirements of your organisation if you have to pay for that service to continue. With an ideal world, we'll be able to replace volunteers like for like, but in that short-term gap between and you have to pay somebody, it's always worth thinking about. And I feel I've scared everybody now. I'm really sorry.
Emma, can I just mention a point there, please?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's worth also noting that sometimes when you are applying for funding, if you're able to demonstrate the value in kind that your volunteers provide, you can sometimes, not always, but sometimes apply it as like match funding. So, but also just to highlight what the value of your volunteer time is sometimes an interesting additional point in a funding application. So I think it's worth just mentioning that sometimes it's more than just knowing yourself, and you can let others know, and it's really important. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's great if you can keep just a monthly tally of what everybody's doing. Ask people at your next meeting, how many hours did you volunteer for this month, and keep a tally. At the end of the year, you'll be surprised at how many hours are actually gone into what you would guesstimate is actually happening. So it is worthwhile doing, especially if it helps with funding. And sometimes could you be putting off better things that for your organisation because you haven't got time or capacity. So look at your roles, look at the roles on your team. What could you give to a volunteer to do that could enable somebody with that time and expertise to achieve the best outcome for your organisation? Sometimes because someone's done it for so many years doesn't mean that they're the best person to do it if they have got skills which you could better utilise elsewhere doing a different project. So that's my hidden value of volunteering lecture over. And remember, volunteers are unpaid, not because they're worthless, but because they are priceless. So I hope I've helped today and helped show you through the system. As I mentioned, we're all here to help. And you can get hold of us on the email here, volunteering@supportstaffordshire.org.uk. That's a central email. And then if you say which area you're from within Staffordshire, I can then put you in touch with the relevant volunteering officer closest to you. So any questions?
Not for me. That was great. I thought it was really interesting.
No, thank you.
Yeah, very useful. So on the adverts that we put up, do we manage those adverts, take them down when we're done, or is that something that you?
Yeah, it's set up as a self-service system. So we're here to help if needed, but the idea is that you can log on and you can change those adverts if you feel that actually it needs a tweak or it needs the role changing slightly. You can do that. If you have someone come forward and you no longer need to advertise, then you can end the role there and then as well, and you can re-advertise or add things at any time. One thing, a sneak around the system is when the volunteers looking at the list of roles available, if they haven't put any filters in as to what they want to search for, the system will always put the newest advert at the top. So if you make a note in your diaries to, I don't know, every other Monday morning, just log on and add a space or change a capital letter and then change it again and click save. Suddenly yours is the newest advert and it will go to the top of the list.
Good tip.
Okay.
Another sort of off the wall question for you, because I was totally unaware of this system really. How long has it been running? How successful is it?
Oh, as for how long it's been running, I don't know. I'm presuming the whole 10 years that Support Staffordshire has been around, but I've only been here for a
volunteer
year.
brokerage isn't anything new. it's always been part of our package, and it was part of pre-Support Staffordshire as well. So I think what we're not probably raising enough awareness of it, and staffing and resourcing into volunteering has been really struggling over the years as well. So now we've got Emma. It's fantastic, and Emma's really pushing it and promoting it because we want more members to use it as well and really benefit from it. And we want to start seeing the difference it makes, not only, because we need to prove to our funders that it's really important, and that we invest in stuff like Emma, and that, all these good things that really it's about helping you fundamentally as well to make it as easy as possible, but to attract a different audience, I'd say, different people who are looking for volunteering, who might be in your own community, who might be then applying for volunteer roles outside of your local community, maybe in Uttoxeter or wherever it is. And then actually you've missed an opportunity because they could have volunteered for you had they have known that you were looking for volunteers. So, we can use it in as many different ways as possible. Also, I think it's worth pointing out that you don't need to find volunteers in your local village. There's no reason. It's not like a parish council where you have to recruit people onto the parish council within a certain area, as the guidance allows. But you can look further afield. There's no reason why you shouldn't. So yeah, it's just reaching out for people who might just be really interested in what you do. Maybe they've got a connection to your village, but they now live in Uttoxeter. So have a think about it, I'd say.
Yeah, completely. We find volunteers come through from different reasonings. Sometimes they'll want to volunteer where they work because they want to get used to and to know the community where they work, or it's something they can do on their way home. Or like Michelle said, they may have a reason why. Maybe that's where they grew up, but they live down the road now, but they want to give back to the place that shaped them.
Great. Thank you very much, Emma.
You're very welcome. I look forward to hearing from all of you.
So I just want to say at this point that if you need to leave Emma Paxton and Emma Chester as well, because I know you've got to go and collect your lovely daughter, so feel free to go leave when you need to. And if I can keep everybody here a little bit longer, we'll come to some of the last points.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Thank you for having us.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Okay, so just for the last, let me try and make this full screen, 15 minutes or so, I just wanted to sort of, it's probably a bit of a recap as much as, excuse me, changing the screen. I think a lot of the next few slides capture a lot of what's been talked about, but I've called it communication and engagement because actually everything we do in life really is about communication and engagement. And I think it's critical for trustees, whether it's working together, whether it's trying to find and recruit new trustees, you know, whatever it is, it's key. So as you all know, without trying to patronize, just a reminder, you know, communication is about passing information and understanding from one person to another, and it's not always spoken. It's sometimes in symbols or actions or behaviors. So it's verbal and non-verbal. Engagement really is about interaction that seeks to build relationships and inspire collaboration, securing participation and driving action. I think that's key when we're looking for trustees. You know, you want to get people involved, you want to motivate them to come along and help out and sign up and do things. So, you know, communication and engagement are critical in all of this. Some of the key elements of communications are like inclusivity. So ensuring that everybody feels they can be involved and included. So, you know, look at different people, all the people in your community, whoever they are, and, you know, if they're interested, see how you can allow them to become involved and included. Communication is very much about sharing information transparently and effectively. So it's not just putting a poster up or broadcasting something, you know, through a talk or whatever. It's about effectively engaging and communicating and keeping them informed about relevant issues, decisions and projects. Participation, so it's actively involving people and community members. Collaboration is about working with people to develop solutions, policies and initiatives linked to the community you're in. Empowerment, very much, I think, is for trustees, about allowing people to get involved and be active in shaping the future and decisions about where they live. But I think as well, importantly for all of us, having feedback and evaluation and reviewing whether it's going well or if you can do things better or differently is key. I think then, just to sort of capture some of the things that we've talked about this afternoon, but I think some things we haven't touched on perhaps is about you as a trustee and being friendly and welcoming and open and approachable and available, being knowledgeable and helpful. I think, you know, if you're looking to recruit other trustees and welcome them into the organisation, you need to be like that, and I'm sure you all are. You know, remember, it's not what you're trying to do is welcome people, make it inclusive and make them feel they can come and talk to you. And lots of people behave differently and are shy to approach, or you know, people with diverse ways of thinking sometimes can't approach. So how do you make yourself approachable? Think about all these sort of things. I think in terms of the village hall, make sure the building is welcoming, the facilities are tidy and clean and up to date if they can be. It's not about the most expensive and the most modern, but it's about keeping it in good condition and making sure that actually any users do the same. It's about making sure you've got all the up-to-date signage and notice boards, health and safety particularly, and it's about the online presence of the village hall as well, not necessarily just about what's going on, but I've looked at several village hall sites recently, and very few of them tell me what the capacity is, would you believe? So, I mean, if I want to book an event, the first thing I want to know is how many people can you take? So I think there are some things that, you know, the simple, obvious sometimes are not obvious and get forgotten. I think communication engagement is about using offline and online, as we've talked about, but also as part of that, remembering to provide key contact names and how to get in touch with those of you that want to be or need to be contacted by members of the community or just members of the public from other areas that would like to access the hall or use it for a future event. Website bookings, somebody mentioned that, I think it was you, Phil, was it, or Richard? Yeah. So, you know, we know businesses that offer online booking systems that are very good. So, you know, we can always offer advice on that. But it's also, you know, the social media, which we've mentioned. And then I think something that's important to remember is communicating your news, letting people know what's going on. You know, you all do it. You've all done it for a long time, I'm sure. But sometimes these things get to be put to the bottom of the list. And I think, you know, if you decide that we really want to start a recruitment drive, some of these things need looking at. So if somebody thinks, oh, I might quite like to take up that role, but I want to know a bit more before I sort of show an interest, how can they find out more about you and the organisation and the hall and the committee members and other trustees? And then I think this is as much for yourselves as new trustees and volunteers. It's about thinking about what are the skills and expertise that you need, and can you match those to people? Like Emma said, on our system, you know, make it clear what skills and expertise you're looking at, but not just skills and expertise. It's about what people will enjoy. You know, we might all be skilled in something, but not necessarily enjoy it. So it's about volunteers knowing there's something there that they can have a go. They've got some skills and expertise, but actually they'll enjoy it as well, and making sure they're enjoying it, checking in with them to see they're still engaged and still want to be involved. Critical, as we've talked about, is making sure that they're all inducted and have opportunities for training, or in fact, are given training where it's actually a requirement. You know, there might be things around safeguarding and health and safety that if you're a trustee, you really need to know. Make sure that you're all sharing knowledge, sharing information, enabling learning and growth, because although we call it volunteering, it is still work. You know, when we stop paid work, or if you like, we want to volunteer because we still want to work and feel useful and have a purpose. But also, you never want to stop learning and growing, I don't think, whatever it is. And then I think really importantly, which Emma touched on, was about recognition and appreciation. And sometimes a simple thank you is enough. It doesn't have to be grand gestures and other things, but just remember to say thank you to each other and tell each other you're doing a great job, and tell other trustees what you think about their work. You know, so it's about being supportive, enabling and inclusive, all those lovely words that really make communities better, and what we do every day makes it more enjoyable. So some of the key things: I'm a volunteer for an organisation, and I think, and in a former life, I was responsible for public relations for a commercial organisation, and we were always mindful about things we said and maybe being overheard. And, you know, it's like, so who is it that you're talking to? What is it you want to say to them? When are you going to do it? Where and how? But also some things to think about. If you're talking and you're having a bit of a moan, and we all need to do that, just be mindful of where you are and who you're saying it to. You don't want to be putting others off. You need to share frustrations and talk about them, but it's done it. You know, do always think about communicating in the right way and engaging in the right way, and share confidences with people that you know you can share those confidences with. So it's about words, actions, and behaviors. Sometimes you forget your body language might be off-putting. So, and I'm not trying to make what you do harder, it's just about making life easier for yourself and everybody else. Is we go around with a smile and feeling positive often influences our behavior and actions anyway, don't they? So and then just to say, you know, reputation is an intangible asset. So what you do, what you say, how you do it, how you say it are like you as volunteers and like your other volunteers, priceless. So, you know, protect it, promote it, look after it, tell people what a great place the village hall is and how much you get out of volunteering and being a trustee. And really, there's significant power in your reputation, which will enable you to improve and enhance your committee, your village hall, and your community, actually. So just, yeah, it's just remembering sometimes that it's great, and the places, communities, village halls are fantastic, and you know, our society would be much the worse off without all of it. And I know I'm preaching to the converted, but sometimes it just helps to remind each other and tell each other. So just a reminder about us, help from Michelle and I, who are your rural officers. There's all sorts of help, support, information and guidance we can provide. And then finally, sort of thank you for joining us. And I won't go without asking you if you want to ask us any questions, but I just want to make sure I share this with you before we do run out of time, or if we run out of time. So yeah, thank you for joining us. We've really enjoyed talking to you and hopefully giving you some good information and advice. And then just a reminder, we've got some other events coming up which are specifically village hall related. So we've got something on the 27th of February, which is about safe premises. We're at Stone Fire Station. That's face-to-face. We've got our Village Hall Network meeting on the 12th of March at Great Bridgeford Village Hall. And a reminder that it's Village Halls Week in March. And please get involved, do all sorts of wonderful things. If nothing else, have an open day to tell everybody how great it is and showcase the hall and what you do and all the events you've got on. But yeah, that's sort of, yeah, thank you. And over to you guys if you've got any questions or comments or thoughts to share, experiences.
I'm just making some notes. Hold on a sec. I've got to zip away because I've got to go and interview this young man who's helping us with digital marketing. But I just want to say thank you for this afternoon and for what you do. And in particular, Michelle's been really helping me. My story is I started on the village halls as a committee member 2 years ago, and within 12 months I became the chair. So it's been quite a steep learning curve for me. We've had quite a few issues. Now, Michelle has really helped me, and actually she put me in touch with Richard, who I know is listening at the moment, from Little Aston, because we had some issues with some of the tennis court issues we had, and that has been really helpful. It was great having Michelle there, it was great having Richard there, and they've been really helpful. So thank you to Support Staffordshire and keep it going. And I'm sorry I've got to rush away.
No problem. Thank you for that, Phil. I will send you. We'd like some feedback, please, formal feedback. So we'll send you a form or a link separately when we send out all this information afterwards as well.
Okay, that's great.
All right.
See you all
thanks.
soon.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Do you want to close the screen down?
Oh yes, sorry. Yes, I will stop sharing. Makes it easier for us all to see each other. That's better.
Thank you.
Fine.
Okay. Is there any other comments from? Celia, I think you've done a fantastic job, by the way. Well done. You've taken the lead on this one, and I give you a big round of applause.
Thank you.
It was amazing. Is there any other comments or thoughts from what's been presented today?
No, it's just a lot of things to keep in mind, and some more enthusiasm. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been quite useful. Thanks.
Right.
Good. Do we have all your email address? I'm sure. Do we have yours, Paul? I'm sure.
Katie's got the list anyway.
Okay, great.
Katie's been collecting attendees.
I think Michelle may have, because we corresponded recently about the website.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, as long as we've got them, and then we'll make sure you get everything. As I say, the presentations and the Village Halls document from Acre, and we'll send you the Acre order list as well. So if you see there's anything on there that you think you'd like, or at any point, obviously just come back to us and ask us for whatever you need, and hopefully we can provide it.
Excellent. Okay.
All right.
It's been very good. And again, I've not been the chairman of Stramshall for very long, just over a year, just under a year now. And the support I've had from Acre has been great. So a big thank you for that. I've tried to pull everything together I can, and this has been another useful tool. So thank you.
Good, good. I'm glad.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much then. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you in February and March.
Hopefully.
Yeah, do you want to stop recording? Thank you.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, where's that?
That's a thought, yeah.
I'm no good at with this recording thing.